Hey everyone, this is Eric with Project EKP and I'm showcasing a new product today. This is the Accord to 2nd Gen CRX Climate Control Swap Kit Type 2. So in this particular kit, there's some differences in Type 1. So in this particular video, I'm going to first go through the history of the difference of the two kits, and then I'm going to show you how to put together the Type 2 kit. And then after that, I'll go into some other details such as testing and other miscellaneous stuff that might be helpful. So to get started, this is what we're looking at as a Type 1 conversion. So this has the side mounting plates, which hasn't changed. You do have to modify the unit on the top to get rid of the tabs. And you also have to mount a adapter plate, which will mount the original CRX temperature control mechanism. So one other part comes with too is this knob cover, so that you could use your CRX knob in the original unit and so that it covers it up and looks a little cleaner. But the disadvantage as well, you have two different types of knobs, and the other way to mitigate that would maybe like glue this knob on, which makes it permanent, which is not really ideal. So that's the difference with this one. The Type 2 kit is a little bit different, and it aims to essentially replace the whole mixer unit or temper controller. So this is what we designed here. And as you can see, the cable input is in the same location. The difference is that the internals of this comes from the Accord, and I'll go through that in a bit through the video. So you can see the action, how you have this clockwise motion of the lever as you turn to the hot position. And we converted the internals of the Accord to replicate that same motion like this. The benefit is that you're using the shaft from the Accord as well, which means you're gonna be able to use the same knob, so you'll have equal types of knobs, and it'll look just like this when you install the unit. So first, let's go into the install on how do we get here and what does the kit come with and how to build this. Alrighty, so here we have a climate control unit from the junkyard, fully intact. You definitely need this temperature controller in the back. The kit comes with several pieces. So you have a semi-assembled mixer housing. You have the two mounting side plates, which is similar to the Type 1 kit. You're going to receive a bag full of extra parts that will mount to this, but they'll be done later in the steps. And then a brand new conversion harness. So this is brand new, made in-house. So first things first, go ahead and take a look at your climate control unit. Make sure all the buttons work as normal. You could toss this in the car with the conversion harness and test all the LEDs itself, but at the end of the video, I'll show you how to test this whole unit without putting it in the car. If you don't want to use these pigtails for any reason, we could buy these from you. Just go ahead and email me. But we're gonna first go ahead and remove that. Let's get rid of those. And we'll need to take this off. So in order to take this off, we'll use a Phillips head screwdriver and remove these three fasteners here. Alrighty, so we have that off, as you can see here. Save these three fasteners for later. We'll be using those. So in the old Type 1 kit, we had to shave these off originally, but now we're going to leave this all intact. So now is a good opportunity to install your side plates. I'm going to show you how to do that at the end of the video. Right now I'm going to be focused on converting this. So let's go ahead and put the climate control unit to the side and take a look at the temper controller. So the idea of the swap is we're going to take this lever here and the input shaft and convert it over to the Project EKP conversion mixer. So first things first, we're going to remove three fasteners. We have one right here that holds the old cable, and then we need to remove these two deep in here. All right, put these three fasteners to the side and go ahead and lift the cable out. And this is all going to get thrown away. We don't need it anymore. So that's going to be gone. I'll put that to the side. And now we need to take this top cover off right here. So there's a little plastic cover you can see. It's clipped on. You simply just pry it off. If it breaks, it doesn't matter. We won't need it anymore. Some of the times they're kind of tight. So it can be pretty tight, but just be patient. You can see how it clips on there. So if you kind of pinch it right here, it'll come out. So now you're going to notice a little pilot hole right here. We're going to have to drill this out because we won't be using this stud anymore. So we're going to do this on this mechanism. So one thing you'll need is a 3/16 drill bit, which is pretty common from your hardware store. And go ahead and attach that to your drill. I'm going to do this step on camera to show how easy it is. Okay, I have it attached to my drill here. So you're going to utilize that hole as your pilot hole and simply just get to drilling. Make sure it stays on center. There you go. There we go. So you can see that the little stud comes out with it when you drill it out, which is what you want. So you can see you have a nice round hole here. Let me just make sure it's all clear. Good. So that is step one to preparing this unit. So you can put that drill bit aside. That's the most modification you'll need to do to this thing. Next, you'll take a pair of pliers and we're gonna pull this. This is an indent mechanism. We're gonna use this later. We're gonna pull this out like that. I recommend like a set of pliers. And you'll expose the gear set here. Put that to the side. Now flip this over as shown. Now we're gonna take this lever and you can see it's free to move now. And we're gonna simply rotate it like this so it bottoms out in the housing. And you want this to align with the notch here. Simply, we just lift it up. And I recommend wearing gloves. We lift it up like this. So it's off the post, and then we turn it 90 degrees and then slip it down like that. We flip the unit over and then we can just pull the input shaft right out like that. And then now we don't need this anymore, we can throw it away. Of course, you could do this drilling step outside of the housing, but using the housing as like a little bit of a, to kind of help is nice. So go ahead and make sure there's no issues with this. These things are usually pre-greased. I would just leave it as is. So we're gonna put that to the side. Go ahead and get some clippers. Remove the zip tie, which holds all the linkages together. Discard that. And here we have the semi-assembled unit. So what we need to do is take these gears and swap it into this housing. We can now take everything out of this baggie here. We'll need some parts from it. Go ahead and just lay this out on your table. And then you can put the bag to the side. Alrighty, for putting the gear set into the housing, it's pretty much the reverse of the steps of removing it from the Accord housing, but it's a little bit different. And the big difference is gonna be how this goes in. So first things first, go ahead and, as shown, position the housing as shown, and go ahead and slip the drive gear or drive link underneath the slot, and then use the slot to put the lever in. And then we're gonna rest on top of the shaft. See, we'll just go down like that, okay? Now we can go ahead and take the plastic washer and this plastic screw, and we're gonna go ahead and clamp down the link and thread it onto this nub here. So I'll do that off camera. All right, for tightening this thing down, we want it pretty snug, of course. This is a locking plastic screw. And you can tighten it pretty tight and it shouldn't bind the link still. It should still be able to freely move. So now here's for the important part and the complicated part is how do we install this piece here? So there's a couple features. There's a little indent right here. I don't know if you can see that. Little indent right here. That's gonna be facing upwards. Not completely in the 12 o'clock position, but make sure it's upwards. And you'll notice there'll be no gear teeth on this side. This is the side we want facing to the right. Now, one tooth I want to be sure you guys see is this one right here. This is where the indexing mechanism bottoms out on. And this is what we want in the 12 o'clock position when we set the gear set and shaft straight into the housing. So this one here, and I'll be very slow about it because it's a very important step, is right here. This is the one we want in the 12 o'clock position, right here, okay? And the goal is that when we put this into the housing, we want to make sure one tooth of the gear set is engaged. Okay, and this might take a couple tries, but I'll show you how it's done. So first, we have it facing right. We have the gearbox here. Go ahead and move this lever all the way clockwise and set this thing down, okay? Now you can kind of keep your thumb on it, on that gear we were talking about in the 12 o'clock position. You'll notice that this won't be able to move. So what we need to do is that we need to simply just lift this up ever so slightly so that we could get one tooth to catch, okay? Like that. So I lifted it up and then turn this thing clockwise so that one tooth catches. That's all you need. It's just the one tooth. So you should hold this with your thumb. This shouldn't move anymore. Okay? That's how you know you did it correctly. If there's any questions about this step, please feel free to email me. But that's how it's done. We want one tooth to catch, so I'll do it one more time. This tooth will be in a 12 o'clock position right here. And we set it down and engage one tooth on the lever. So we set this down in the housing. Move this clockwise till it bottoms out. Then slightly lift and engage one tooth. You can kind of feel it when it catches. Might take a little feel. There we go. I caught one tooth. And then push it back down and ensure this thing doesn't move anymore. Should be all locked. Okay, so as it's sitting in this position now, this is the indexing feature that we took off from the Accord unit. We're gonna put this back and clip it down. So it's gonna assemble like this. So you have these little prongs that are gonna attach right in here, and then the screw holes will align. Go ahead and drop that in, and take your thumb and push it down and load it in. There you go. You can hear it click, and that's when you get it in. Okay. So now you can actually test this now. You can actually take a knob, hold it down, and just kind of cycle it through. Make sure it's working correctly. And as you bottom it out, like this, it shouldn't come out. Okay? So that's how you know you installed it correctly. So now we're gonna take the two screws that we removed earlier to mount this thing, and we're gonna screw it into the housing. Okay, so we got those two screws in, if you can see in there, a little bit deep. And lastly, just test it one more time, make sure nothing's binding. You hear when you bottom out the mechanism, you can hear that louder click. That's when you know it's at full travel. Hear that? So that's how you know it works. So congratulations, that was the hardest part of this install. Everything else is much easier. So let's get started on that. So next we have this grease cover. We'll simply just install that. That aligns over the heat insert holes. So you kind of sit on top and kind of push it to the right a little bit. So all the holes align. And you can see it's indexed slightly so that it keys into this part. That way it just ensures that no dust gets in. And then we'll take our 3mm screws and install those in here. And then to do that, we'll use a 2mm Allen key. All right, we went ahead and used our Allen key, installed those 3mm screws, 3mm little screws. And we simply now just need to attach this idle link onto the drive link. So we're gonna go ahead and remove this nut, put that to the side. And you can see there's this kind of a indexed kind of a washer. We'll put that to the side as well. This washer is supposed to slip underneath right here. So we'll show that step as we do it. Now we have this bushing right here and it's very tight against this bolt to reduce play. So we'll go ahead and take our 1/8 Allen key. And as we hold the bushing, we'll kind of unscrew that out. It's a bit of a tedious step, and I'm sorry about that, but we really want to minimize clearance as much as possible. That way everything moves nicely. So we went and held that bushing, unscrewed that, so it's kind of sticking out a little bit. And we simply just rotate it over the output or drive link and start threading that in. It should be a tight fit, depending on how you drilled it, but that's a good thing. We want a tight fit because we don't want any play. Any play in this linkage will create, you know, a dynamic motion that's not ideal. There's a couple things that need to happen. We need to first put this bolt into this drive link, but also we need to add this washer back. And this washer has a little indexing tab, which corresponds to a tab that's right in there. And you can see there's a middle rib right in there that this will key against. That just keeps this thing from spinning. The reason for this washer is that you can see that the lever is kind of hovering off the housing a little bit, and it's to fill that gap and support this lever. So what we need to do is we need to slip this in between the gap, as shown, just slip it in like this. And you want to push it down so that it keys up against that center rib of the output link, like that. And the hole should line up. Does that make sense? And then now we can go ahead and carry the idle link linkage and get that bolt aligned with that hole that we drilled earlier. So it looks like that, okay? And we'll go ahead and screw that down. And a little tip here is hold on to that big black bushing spacer so the thing doesn't keep spinning on you. And you'll see that it'll start working its way through the linkage. Like that. And if it gets a little tight and starts stripping, it's fine. Because we have a nut. So go ahead and take your nut. Everything's looking good. Take your nut, go ahead and thread that on. And let's clamp this whole assembly down. So we'll take our 3/8 wrench and get going. But we want it just hand tight. This thing's designed to not bind. And it will not bind because you can see there's a bushing in there, and at least as long as that head is above the link, you won't have any binding. So you can get this pretty hand tight, but you just need it hand tight. We have a lock nut which takes care of most of the play, or takes care of most of the locking, so if it's not clamped completely, it'll cover that. But also we do have a bushing in there which does the clamping down. So there we go. Go ahead and give some tests, and you're done. So not too difficult. The most difficult part is the gear set. So next I'm gonna get some cables and show you how the cables go into this thing, because it'll take a closer look into this mechanism. Alrighty, we have a cable here. So one thing left over from this install, you're gonna have one extra screw. You don't need that, by the way. You just need the 3 to mount this to the climate control unit. So quickly, while we have this apart, I'll show you how this works. So you'll have this attached to the climate control unit. And what you'll need to do is feed the cables. This is from your Honda CRX I'm holding right here. It installs exactly the same as the original, but a little bit different, and but similar. So in terms of putting the cable in, it's the same. You simply have this hook facing like this, so the joggle is facing to the right, and you simply just put it into the hole and then turn it like this, and you can see it'll catch as such. And then for the housing, you'll see that the housing has a notch in there. You kind of see it where I'm pointing to my finger right there, that notch. You'll lay that into a male notch that's located onto the housing. You can kind of see it right there. So just set into that groove like that. And you'll do that for the other side as well. And then this is the top cover that clamps it all down. You can see that we have an arrow facing the direction of where the link is. So the output link is where this thing would point towards. And you can also see by the holes. The hole is a lot larger on this side and the hole is smaller on this side. So that simply just goes over, and that should index into the housing as well, because it has its own male groove like that. Just clamp that down. And then this will clamp down the whole assembly. This is a 8mm hex, and future revisions you might see a Phillips head on this too. So 8mm hex or Phillips. So I'm not going to clamp it all the way, but as you can see, there we go. Just going to put that knob on and show you how that works. There you go. And now you've successfully built a Type 2 kit. So let's go ahead and remove this, and let's go to our climate control unit. So first things first, we still need to modify this unit. So in terms of bolting this on, I'm not going to show you how to do that because it's very similar, but here's some tips. Simply just put it on like normal. Okay. And then the screws will go on like the original as well. So here, here, and here. If there's some accessibility issues, I completely understand this is a tight fit. Here's a little trick I could show you. Go ahead and take, if you have a magnetic screwdriver, you could do something like this. And then you want to feed the screw underneath the idle link, which is the black one. Okay, like this. Kind of feed it underneath like that. And then you could get access, a straight shot access to screw it down. Just like that. And you can do the same for the other side, just feed it underneath like that. We might need to move the mechanism a little bit, but that is one trick to do it. And you'll do that before you install this onto the car. Okay. But one thing I want to showcase is, well, how do we install the mounting plates on the side? This is very similar to the Type 1, so if you're familiar how to do it, you could skip this part of the video. But here's some tricks if you haven't done this before. So here are the mounting plates. First things first, we need to remove these. So one thing I showed in the previous video is that you can actually use this as a Dremel to grind this off. I found out that realistically, you could leave these 2 top ones on, and you really just need to remove the bottoms. To remove the bottoms, there's a really easy way to do it. Because cutting with a Dremel can be messy, and you can simply just use cutters and cut. And make sure you wear safety glasses. It's really important, make sure you wear safety glasses. I'll put those on right now. Okay, those are on. And you could go ahead and cut like that. Break away a little bit, and then cut this off here. Okay. So that is one way of doing it. And then you could go back with a Dremel if you want, or a cutting wheel, and just file that down and do the same with the other side. I'm not gonna do the rest on camera because I think that's pretty straightforward. I wanna show one little trick here. So you could leave this little tab on and you could still mount the side plate, no problem. Okay, just like that. But if you wanna cut this off, here's one little trick as well. So make sure you have your safety glasses on. And what we're gonna do is simply take the cutters again and just cut along the base of it. See, and it starts coming off. And it's best to use flush cutters, like for cutting cables. The ones I'm using is not as ideal, but I will come back with a Dremel and go ahead and shave that down. So you can just keep cutting along like this. And the reason you might want to do that is just to eliminate any gaps potentially. You're not going to see this cut on the actual car itself, so you don't have to be too perfect with it because all this gets covered up by the center console bezel. And you could do this to the other side, and there you go. For gluing this on, there's a couple ways to do it. So what you want to do is notice the EKP logo here. You want to make sure that's facing up. You want to make sure the stud's facing towards you or towards the buttons. And that's how you know you have the right orientation. So it uses one screw on the right, 2 screws on the left. It's going to go on like this, okay? So for bonding, you want to make sure you clean the surface with alcohol and scuff it with 150 grit, 220 grit sandpaper. You're going to scuff this surface, scuff this surface. I'm not going to show that on camera. Alrighty, so I grabbed some glue real quick to show you what I use. You want to use a 2-part epoxy. This is something from Home Depot. This is why I'm choosing it, something that's really easily available, or Lowe's. And how do you apply it is after you scuff the 2 surfaces, you could simply just vertically align, I'll move the camera a little bit, you could vertically align this thing on the bench, and you'll apply epoxy here, set it right here, like that, and just using your gloves and your thumb, kind of align it, and just let that sit. Once that's done, you could flip it over and do the other side. Very simple. So that's how you install these. Okay, so here we go. This is one we pre-built. This is how it's gonna look. If it looks a little goopy, it doesn't matter because this all gets covered anyway, so don't worry about it. So anyways, put this to a side. So that concludes the Type 2 build. Appreciate for watching. Stick around if you want to see some tricks and tips I learned with these things. That might help you guys deal with these units a little bit better. So first we're gonna go over the bulbs in the back, and then we're gonna go over these buttons. So stick around if you want to see that. So here we go. I made this little cheat sheet essentially to test to determine if this climate control unit has working buttons. And there's a certain way I do it, and it utilizes the conversion harness. So what you could do is you could go ahead and buy this kit, and then once you have this harness, you could then test these units to make sure they're working. So what you want to do is first test the bulbs, right? So before we install this, we want to make sure all the bulbs work. You can see that we have the 2 bulbs here, and there's 1 bulb right here too. And we can do this using a multimeter. We simply just want to test continuity. And we can do that by just testing the resistance. So here's a multimeter here, sets the lowest setting, 200 ohms. And we simply just probe both sides of it here. So what we want to do is take the leads of the multimeter and go ahead and probe the little metal contacts on both sides of the bulb here. And if I kind of position this correctly, as such, we could go ahead and probe that and see nothing's happening. So this is a dead bulb, okay? Just check one more time, nothing. If we check this one, we can see, boom, you see how it's detecting resistance? So there's some continuity there. See that? But this bottom one doesn't work. Nothing, it's completely dead. So if I unscrew this, kind of turn this thing counterclockwise, take this bulb out, we'll inspect it real quick. And it's gonna be hard to show on camera, but there is an issue. There's a slight break And I'm not gonna be able to get this on camera, but it's a slight break of the filament right in there, right against where it attaches to the housing. So this is unfortunately bad and needs to get replaced. I highly recommend just getting all new bulbs, but if it's something you don't want to buy, then you could do this simple trick. And you can do the simple method for the back one here. So you could simply just take your leads and shove it behind the harness or behind the wire and touch the back of the terminals. And you can see there's a resistance there so that these bulbs work, see? So there's no issue there. So that's one little trick. So I'll go ahead and replace that. For testing the buttons, so usually these buttons, I haven't seen any issues with the electronic boards. Mainly what happens is actually the actual mechanism breaks itself, so you have a button that gets stuck down and it won't come back up, for example. So the whole board, there's a board with a little multi-switch board thing, which is pretty complex, and essentially what happens is that you'll have like two buttons pressed at the same time, and the whole mechanism will be broken, and you won't be able to keep the buttons down, they'll keep popping back up. So one way to at least test if you're not confident that, you know, these buttons work, one thing you can do is take the climate control harness, plug the green 14-pin terminal into the back of the housing, like that. And we could simply test it using this cheat sheet. So you can take a screenshot if you like. This is the cheat sheet I made. So we have the release button here and the two missing terminals, which corresponds with the back of that. So you can see the two missing terminals correspond here, and the release clips up right here. So that's how you get the orientation. Pin 1 is ground, which is the very most top left. I kind of marked that there. That's going to be your ground. So your ground lead is always going to be touching that terminal like this. Okay. And then these are the different functions. So for face, number 3. So for face, what I mean is face here, and then face/foot, which is face/foot, and then we have foot only, and we have an outside air. This is for outside air. This is for recirculating. Foot only, and then we have foot and defrost right here, pin number 11. Per this, now the pins are not accurately represented on the connector. This is just a very easy way for you guys to kind of go through it. The actual pinout is actually on these connectors, and I'm pretty sure I labeled it wrong, but yeah. Excuse me if I did. I know for sure I did, but this is just an easy way to do it. And then defrost, which is this big guy here as well. So what you could do here, I'll show you one, and you can see how you do the rest. So we're gonna first test the face one. So simply what we do, I'm gonna put this to the side. Go ahead and flip this thing back over. Go ahead and press the face button right here. Press that down. And then we'll go ahead and put our lead on the ground. Okay. As such, and then we'll go ahead and probe that pin right next to it, like this. So let's move this so you guys can see it. Sorry, I don't have a good setup. So simply I'll just go ahead and touch those two terminals on the back. As such. It's kind of hard doing this on the table with the camera in the way. Press that down. Boom, you see how resistance went up? And then when I press a different button, it goes to 0. Or goes to 1, excuse me. So that's how you know that button works. So hopefully that makes sense. And you can do that for all the buttons corresponding to that cheat sheet. Once I said, these numbers do not correlate with the actual terminal numbers, but this will get you there. So this is something I would use to test these units at the junkyard. Unfortunately, be careful with your junkyard. They might take away your harness and be like, hey, this is a part you're not allowed to bring in, so be careful with this. And that's simply all the tricks for testing these. Now I'm gonna show you one last trick before the video ends, and that's regarding these knobs. So it's kind of hard to find these original knobs these days, unfortunately. You can see they get really yellow. They also start splitting. You can buy these, but sometimes it might be a little expensive. So here's a little trick. If you look at like a 95, 96 Accord, which is the year after the CB7, that's a very similar knob, and it fits right on the shaft. So just a little trick. This is a 95, 96 knob, I believe. Forget the chassis code, but it works the same way. Here's how it looks in the actual housing. Not too much different. And you can have a pair of those instead. So here's one little trick too for having a knob. Although these, I don't think, they do light up, but not as nicely as the CB7s. But it is one little trick. So yeah, that's the end of that. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Sorry for the very casual video. I try to just keep this thing quick so that I could get this product out to you guys. But I really appreciate your support. This was a long time coming. It was about 2 years in the making for this thing, off and on. It was just one of those projects where, I wasn't too sure if I wanted to continue it anymore, just because wasn't too sure if people were interested in this. But time and time again, people were breaking their units. Like this one's broken, for example. It's broken right here, which really sucks. I want to keep these cars alive. I love the Honda CRX, even though I don't have mine anymore. And I hope this is a product that incentivizes you to run AC and your heater and keep it as OEM as possible. So thanks for watching. Have a great day. Peace.